Last one at the board, second time in a row. C4. Who was white? It was me. E5. Knight C3. Bishop B4. Knight D5. Oh yeah, I was very excited that I got to do that thing that I looked at one time, where if my bishop gets attacked, or if my knight gets attacked right away, I can just bring my knight up and counterattack the bishop. So I went knight D5 on turn 3. He goes bishop C5. I attack him again. I didn't remember all the strategic things after, just doing the one counterattack. But I go B4 because it's protected by the knight and it's attacking the bishop a second time. Then he goes bishop E7. Turn 5, D4, C6. Knight takes E7. He was being threatened and couldn't let that bishop live after all that. So knight takes E7 and then queen takes back. Queen takes E7. A3, protecting B4. Knight F6. Bishop B2. E4. I should have maybe planned that better. Maybe a capture first or something, but my dark square bishop gets locked away in a nice little, he doesn't get to do much. And until, just wait. You think this is just another boring old game of chess. So bishop B2, long diagonal. He goes E4, turn 9, G3, D5, 10, C takes D5, C takes D5, turn 11, rook C1, castles, kingside castle, I should say, E3, H6, knight E2, bishop G4, queen B3, bishop F3. Oh yeah, things starting to get a little. Rook G1 for turn 15. Bishop takes E2. Bishop takes E2. I don't know what's happening. Just wait. Knight B to D7. Turn 17. F3. Oh yeah, there was a knight on E2 and then the bishop, and now my bishop's on E2. And then he goes knight B to D7. I go F3. F3. And he goes queen E6. I go H4. He goes queen H3. I go H4 because his queen was coming down. I didn't want to worry about that pawn. And it's protected. And then my rook, I'll be able to save the rook. And then I thought for a while. And king F2. King F2, I go towards the danger because I know I could protect it. And he's doing jobs over there. So the king's in the action. He's playing. Can't just checkmate him with just a queen. So I had a feeling that he'd do good work there. Queen E6. Getting out of there. F4. Yeah, I just start pushing. Instead of taking, I decide to keep it. And then he goes B5. I go G4. Pushing him. Oh yeah, there's sort of a wall on the queen side. It becomes like Fort Knox in there. So g4, I went g4, g5. Yeah, so turn 21, g4, knight b6, 22, g5, knight f to d7. I go bishop g4, queen d6, rook c5, knight c4, bishop takes d7, queen takes d7, bishop c1. What's happening now? I'm so frazzled. These games, doing this after this, I don't know how anybody does it. How do you take an interview after something like this? Turn 26, bishop c1, rook, he goes rook f to d8. I go king g3. He goes queen e6. I go h5. Push those pawns. He goes queen f5. He's maneuvering his queen a lot, making sure it's in a good spot, keeping everything solid. I go king h4. Get up there. This is where I'm breaking through. Get him in the party. I used my king, let me tell you. He goes king f8. Getting him out of there. He sensed the trouble. I go queen d1. I had to think a long time. I had to take him from the queen side, bring him over. His queen was doing more than mine. So when he goes king e7, I went queen g4, basically forcing a queen trade. Thinking that I'm doing great and breaking through in such a nice way. Now that I have my rook and everything, I got, everything's going so nice when he takes, and then rook takes g4, then king d6 he goes, getting down and threatening my, oh yeah, I should have mentioned how cool I thought it was when I went rook c5 way back on turn 24. Sorry, I blasted through that. I was like, look at this, and I was attacking his pawn on, d5, and the queen was there, and oh man, all sorts of double attacks and cool stuff was happening. But then as soon as he goes knight c4, I have this cool outpost for my rook, and he's got a permanent outpost for his knight. And so then I have to bring my dark square bishop back to c1, and that's just the structure of that side for like the next 30 moves. So I digress. Where were we? Oh yeah, I went queen d1, king e7, king g4, king takes g4, or sorry, queen takes g4, rook takes g4, king d6. I go g6, breaking through, and he goes h takes g6, and I go h takes g6, and everything's going great. Oh, but did you think about the fact that you're going to get checked? Oh, it doesn't matter. Rook h8 check. I just pull him back. I was probably going to do that anyway, so my rook could take it. So I go king g3. He goes f6. Now I don't get to break through. He locked it up, as despite my bestest of efforts, he secured it. And then I go king g2 because I didn't want him to bring his rook down and attack my bishop. So he goes rook h6. We're getting ready to double up, of course. So now I start. This is where this is what you'd call like Hail Mary from just NFL Blitz 64 or whatever. Hail Mary. See what you got. I go a4. B takes a4. And I push b5. And a takes b5. Sacrificing these pawns for some play. Get that rook, very much needed rook, back into the game, right? A takes b5. Rook takes b5. And then he goes a3. And I grossly underestimated how quickly that pawn was going to be something that I'd have to deal with, because I thought after I could get my rook to... I mean, you just do what you can do, right? I was just playing chess. So he goes a3, and I sacrifice my bishop for it. I go bishop takes a3 check. And here we go. He's going to take with the knight, threaten to double attack on that pawn on e4, or and then or fork later or whatever. He doesn't take. he moves his king. He moves his king to king c6. And I go rook c5 check. I think he goes back. I failed to write it down. No, he doesn't go back because he doesn't want to get discover checked. I think he might go the other way. Anyway, I go rook takes c4. I sacrifice my rook for that knight because that fork coming. And he goes d takes c4. And I go bishop c5 check. And he goes king c6. I go f5. Oh yeah. And he goes king a2 check. Is that possible? And I go king g3. Yeah, I guess maybe it was a discovered check or something. I go king g3 on turn 45. He goes rook h8. I go rook takes e4, that pawn. And he goes c3. Yeah, now here comes the next pawn that I have to worry about. What a skirmish this turns out to be. And I'm pressing time on my clock. There was multiple times where I had I think at least once I was down to like 2 seconds on the clock. Multiple times. At this point, I'm just playing with 30-second bonus. I'm just playing on increment. And so he goes rook. He went c3. I went rook e6 check. He goes king d5. And I go rook d6 check. He goes king c4. I go rook c6, getting ready for a discover check after I move the bishop. So he plans ahead. He goes king d3. I go bishop b4. And he goes c2. Oh yeah, he's one square away from promoting. I go rook c3 check. And he goes king e2. And I go bishop a3. If he takes with his rook that is currently on a2, then I would get to eat that pawn with check. So stopping him from getting... He goes king d2. I go bishop b4. Protecting my rook. He goes king d1. And I go rook d3 check. And he goes king e2. And I go rook d2 check. And he didn't notice that he could take that pawn. He thought he only had one move. He went king e1 check. He went king e1. King e1. And then I get to do rook c2 check. Discover check with the bishop. And he has to move his king. Oh yeah, rook takes c2 check. I should put a little x there. And he goes king d1, and I take his rook. Rook takes a2. And we're still playing with just seconds on it. I'm shaking like a leaf. And all of a sudden, I'm up material. I was down. He goes rook e8, getting ready. And I stopped writing things down. And I didn't know that's not okay. I got a little warning. And, at that point, he's like, it's mandatory to write it down. It's like, okay, yep, okay, no problem. And then I started, so I pick it back up where I sort of looked over. I was like, okay, turn 64 maybe. And I don't know what happens. I'm sorry. It was crazy. But anyway, let's just pick it up. Oh, I don't even know how to pick it up. I'm going to tell you the rest of the stuff I wrote down. King d2, he goes at some point. And I go king d... How do we both go king d2? And then he goes rook e2. He goes rook e7, and I go king d2. I go king d2 again? Look at this. First, he goes king d2, and then I go king d2, and he goes rook e7, and I go king d2 again. That's not what happened. I played legal moves the whole time, I promise. And he goes rook d7, and I go e4. He goes king e2, and I go e5. He goes f. Oh yeah, I messed up and I lost my bishop. F takes e5 check at some and I go king takes e5. Oh yeah, he took my pawn, and then I king f3 and king e6 and rook e7 and king d6 and king f4, and I go d7, and he shakes my hand. Holy smokes. I've never pulled such a thing off like that. I'm speechless. Like, I can't believe. You know what they say? I have seen Magnus do it. I'm not comparing myself to Magnus, but I'm learning from these people that you keep it complicated, right? He was having trouble figuring out how to eat that c pawn, or how to keep it safe, how to get it promoted, and he was determined to get it promoted. He said he was, after the game, he's like, I got a bit too complacent, because he knew he had it in the bag, which of course he did, of course. But you have to seal the deal. And I kept it complicated. Complications, checks, just check city. Stay alive as long as possible. That's what puzzles taught me. That's what the computers do. They sacrifice stuff left and right. They're like, no, I'm not giving you the win on this move. Maybe the next one, but not this one. Not this day, right? Arya Stark, right? Holy smokes. And now I have to play another one in half an hour. That game took too long. But I would do it all again if it leads to the win. Man, kudos to my opponent, and kudos to me for sticking it out. Don't give up. You can't give up. Because stuff like this happens. You never know. Nothing matters, remember? That's the moral of every story. Nothing matters. Okay? We're all just space dust. You do what you can do. And sometimes it works out. Now I'm 3 for 4. Okay. I'll see you after the next one. Woo!